In recent years, educators across the U.S. have placed growing importance on teaching soft skills to middle schoolers, recognizing these abilities as critical, not only for academic success, but also for long-term career readiness. According to LinkedIn's workforce report, 77% of employers view soft skills such as communication, teamwork, and adaptability as equally important as technical knowledge. Yet they frequently struggle to find candidates who demonstrate them.
Whatever it is that you want to be, you need to have these skills, and they're lacking, and it's so amplified today. It's so evident today.
A recent survey found that 35% of American teachers believe students aren't socially prepared for the workplace, and they need more structured opportunities to build those soft skills. One popular program in the U.S. and now in Southern California middle schools is the Amazing Shake, training and competition. It brings leaders from a school's local community to those campuses to help kids learn how to think in the moment, to negotiate awkward situations, inject themselves comfortably into conversations, handle interviews, and act confident in a variety of real-life situations. Jacqui Dobens is the founder of Much More Than Mentorship and is the leader of the prep team for the Amazing Shake competition team at San Gorgonio Middle School in Beaumont, California. She joins us by phone today. Jacqui, thanks for taking our call.
Thank you so much for having me.
Could you explain the Amazing Shake competition for those who may not have ever heard of it before?
Oh my gosh, let's see. Imagine a slew of students that have frenetic energy, that are learning durable life skills, and they don't know it through this competition. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, I'll give you a good example. It's called the gauntlet. And at the gauntlet, you might have, let's say 15, 20 stations of real world scenarios. For example, one may be that you are the manager of a restaurant and someone is complaining about an incorrect order. How do you handle that gracefully? How do you navigate through that and make sure it's a win-win for everyone?
Wow.
Or you may have a situation where there is a haircut that went wrong, that went bad. How do you diffuse that situation and still make sure as best as possible in such a negative situation that you're able to navigate through that and ease and put the customer at ease? There's ones where you playing even a cornhole. And how are you if you lose? Are you a sore loser or are you a graceful, loser and say, wow, next time, I'll get you. It's all of these types of scenarios of having a yard sale and someone is really giving you or offering you a really, really low price that actually is insulting. How do you still say thank you, but no thank you in a way that doesn't offend them, and maybe they'll still purchase something else from you? Yeah. So it's these types of things, these type of durable life skills that it's hard to get implemented in everyday life. And teachers are tasked with doing so many things, and for them to be expected to do that is a little bit daunting. And that's where the Amazing Shake comes in. The Amazing Shake is actually founded by Ron Clark Academy, and they're based in Georgia. And they're not really new on the scene. As a matter of fact, I saw something where they had been interviewed on Oprah years ago, and I had never heard of them. And when I looked at some of the things that they were doing, I was amazed at the way that they figured out how to get this information disseminated. I equate it to, if you want to give a dog a pill, you wrap it in cheese. Well, to me, the Amazing Shake is the cheese getting the students the durable life skills that are so needed, especially post-COVID, to be honest with you.
So, Jacqui, what brought you and your program to working with San Gorgonio Middle School on this competition?
Oh, that's actually, I'll give you the condensed version for time.
Okay.
What's so funny about it is I came there to talk about my mentorship program. And when I shared with them the team that I've assembled, which I call them, heavy hitters, and the presenters and the mentors that I have assembled, in addition to the modules of because I was having things like communication and empathy, and they said, hold on. I was meeting with Principal Chris and AP Lauren, and they said, wait a minute. have you ever heard of Amazing Shake? And I said, no. And it's like in the middle of my pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no. And they said, would you mind coming to volunteer and check it out as a judge? And I said, sure. And when I went there, I realized at that moment the synergy and the commonality that we have and how we would end up being a really good fit in my presenting to them, to the students, ways for them to have that information, prepping them for the Amazing Shake. Because the way that it is now is the teachers are tasked with trying to get them, and they're spending their extra time and resources to try to get the students prepped for the actual competition in Georgia. It's a big thing. It's national. Okay. Wow. And so imagine trying to do that and everything else in their days, in addition to them having their own families and their own lives. There's no way for them to be able to do that as effectively as they'd want to, of course. So what they saw with me and with us, they saw a way for us to give the students a little more depth. For example, we had the top 3 that actually just went to the national championship in Georgia. And what we taught them, like I taught them how to introduce yourselves and how to be connected to what's the purpose of this? Why are you doing this? And then we had Nick Nieblis, who is the owner of the Improv School of Redlands. He taught them how to speak more extemporaneously, how to be more quick on their feet and be more comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And then we have the etiquette instructor, Cornelius Bryant, and he shared with them how to be poised under pressure. How, right now you're a big fish in a small pond. You're about to embark on some students who've been doing this for years. They've been practicing for years, and the actual academy itself, that's what they do every day. They learn these things every day. So it's tough competition.
Yeah.
And how do you handle that? And how do you manage the mindset of that and to make sure that they have fun and remember that they're kids and to really maximize this opportunity? So it was things like that we instilled in them that basically sent them on their way. And as a result, one of the students ended up 53 out of the top 50. So the cutoff was top 50, or he would have been able to go to the next round, but he was 53. And we're so proud of him. And that's the highest anyone to date has ever ranked at the Amazing Shake.
You're listening to Education Insight. Your presenter and mentor roster is, as you've pointed out, filled with fascinating professionals. How do you gather them together, and what goes into the selection of who would be a great mentor in this program? Great
question. It's really interesting. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I thought, for example, with Nick, the owner of the Improv School, when I attended the Amazing Shake, the Gauntlet, I saw that the children, they had everything was down pat as far as the checklist. They had the checklist of everything they should say when they walk up. Hi, my name is, and your name is, and it's a nice day today, isn't it? And they had all these different things, but they were so robotic that their personality, there was no way I couldn't see them. I could see the checklist. I could see the checklist very clearly. And it was each one of them walked up the same way, said the exact same thing. And I said, they've got to learn how to be a little more comfortable on the fly. And I thought, how could that get instilled in them? And I said, improv.
Yeah.
Improv. So what did I do? I Googled schmoogled and I found there was an improv school in Redlands. I said, perfect. That's close. And so I picked up the phone with a concept.
Yeah.
And I called and Nick answered and he said yes. And that's how that went. I saw that need and I filled it. Now I've gotten to the point that now some donors have volunteered themselves to be a mentor, and I asked them to send me a bio, and and then one of them recently introduced me to 2 other gentlemen, and I said, "Whoa, this is amazing!" And it was all because of just sharing. This is what we're doing, and them seeing the models and having a conversation.
Yeah. Some of these exercises, they are transformational. Which do you think is the one that is the most impactful for kids?
Well, one of them actually is something that I myself did that's called 567. And what you do is you ask them what's important to them about blank. And in this instance, what's important to you about doing well or placing well at the Amazing Shake competition? And you ask that over and over until you get to typically it takes, 5, 6, or 7 levels deep for there to be a connection. And as I was sharing that with the top 3 students, because that's definitely something that I wanted them to connect with, one of them said, when she got to like the 4th, me asking her, every time she gave the response, I'd say, and what's important to you about that? And what's important to you about that? And then she took a breath and she said, that's a deep question. And I knew then that she would remember any time when you're embarking on anything to ask yourself, what's important to you about that? Because that's what's going to enable you to get out of your comfort zone when it's uncomfortable. We had created a safe space of silence. And I said, learn to become comfortable with silence. So I had them, I played the Jeopardy music, and there was a silence for, the 30 seconds. And I said, does that seem like a long time? And they said, yeah. And I said, it's not that long. And I said, but it's enough time for you to catch yourself and to really check in with yourself to see how you're feeling. So that was one that went really, really well. Another one was actually with Nick when he did a zip, zap, zop. And what it does is like a round robin, and you're having this story, you're creating this story based upon one word at a time. And you're basically feeding off of each other. And it's something where you could see it being really great for team building, which I know it did that for them. It also made them see how they can have launch words that will propel them to think of whatever it is they're going to share next. So it was those 2 are what's popping in my mind with that question.
Yeah. I've heard from folks that have witnessed the competition. You've had students go from nervous to natural in an incredibly short amount of time. Tell us about that evolution that the kids go through.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times I find that the students will say things like, I'm comfortable talking to my peers, but I don't like talking to adults. And when, like this past session, they were all so nervous. I just had it last week. With this past session, they were all nervous. And what I did was I had them stand in front of the other students, their peers, and I stood behind them and I asked them questions, and then they answered. And you could see them block. I couldn't physically see them because I was standing behind them. I could feel not only their energy, but the energy from the other ones that were in attendance, feeling more like, a camaraderie, and watching it change from them being very, we're at this table and we're at this table, very territorial, and watching them just blossom to the point that once they saw the person standing up, their shoulders go down, their body language changed, the way in which they conveyed their messaging and their sharing, they literally went quote unquote off script and really got into it. You could see it gave everyone else permission to do the same. And to watch that change in such a short period of time, by the time the second student came up, it was like, okay, I know. One of the students, he came almost like, I know what you're going to say. And I said, no, you don't. So I had him stand there for a long time, and it just stood there in the silence. And then I asked him the question from behind, and then he shared, and you could see the difference between him. He says, he said, I learned something today. I said, what's that? He said, I need to wait for instructions. I went, wow. Yeah.
We'll have more of our conversation with Jacqui Dobens of Much More Than Mentorship in just a moment. This is Education Insight. Welcome back to Education Insight. Today discussing a national effort to give middle schoolers training in soft skills or social skills. One program bringing soft skills training and even a national competition to middle schools is called the Amazing Shake. Probably because step one is all about that first handshake.
When you approach somebody, you want to have a firm handshake. Look them in the eyes and have confidence. You want to smile, and when you say your name, you want to make sure that you do a roller coaster. What I mean by that is that you say, hello, my name is, a slight pause, then you say it.
That's Ron Clark. He's the founder of the Amazing Shake. Our conversation with Jacqui Dobens, the leader of the prep team for the competition at San Gorgonio Middle School in Beaumont, continues. So Jacqui, how do students typically respond to being thrown into spontaneous real-world scenarios like being a server at a very busy restaurant with rude customers or interjecting themselves into a conversation that two other people are having? Because I'm listening to that and I'm thinking, oh God, that made me nervous just thinking about it.
Right.
So how do they respond to that?
It's interesting. I've seen, I saw one young lady in particular when you mentioned about the interjecting into a conversation. And she walked up, and she was so poised, and she said, hi, my name. She said her name, and then she said, and your name to the other peer. Then she said, is it okay if I enter into this conversation? And then she said, may I ask what you were discussing prior? I about fell over. And when I was giving the feedback to the students, I said, there's a lot of us adults that could learn a little bit from you all with that. And it's interesting watching it unfold. They start one way, and you get ones that you can tell they've been through, like this is their second time through the Amazing Shake. And then there's others where you say, okay, this kid has just been dumped in, knee deep. And we've had to learn how to meet them where they're at. And so once you start to get the personalities down of different ones, you say, okay, what's going to resonate with this one? What's going to make them open up a little bit more? What's going to help them be more seen so that when they do compete, they'll do a little bit better? I find that when they first walk up, like the first station, they're trying to get the lay of the land. They don't really get it. They don't know how this all works. So those tend to be a little more challenging. If you're like in the middle, you're going to get the really good. By the end, by say the station 14, let's say, you're going to get them much more relaxed and much more engaged. But the first one, oh my goodness, the terror. It's like, what is going on here?
I bet.
And then to see them when they're walking out, you can see their posture change, their countenance, their body language. They're excited. They're ready to go back. And now that they know what it is, they're ready to go back in there and tackle it. You can see them. Is that it? And I was like, yeah, that's it. So it's kind of cool to see it. It's very, very special. Very special.
Why do you believe that durable life skills like public speaking and empathy, manners, and improvisation, as we've discussed, are just as critical as academic skills for kids right now?
There's several layers to that. I come from a background of where my parents had a very successful janitorial business, and as such, they would have parties where they would have the clients over to our home. And I remember being like 7 years old, and it was more potluck, and I didn't even know what potluck was, but they would bring all these different dishes, and they were dishes I'd never heard of, borscht and baklava and, all these things, and even sushi. And my parents, fortunately for me, taught me how to go and introduce myself to Mr. Lee and the various clients that were there. And that made it so that when I got older, I look back, that was the best gift I could have gotten, because it made it so that I've always been very outgoing, and that's always gotten me the success that I've received thus far in my life. It pains me for the kids that are so disconnected from interaction itself, let alone public speaking in a big form. I mean, public speaking one-on-one in some instances, with the tethering to the phone and, all of the short acronyms of communication versus being able to string a full sentence together. And post-COVID has really amplified it. Because if we can't, you can have the best of grades, but if you're not able to articulate and express yourself, you're not going to be chosen for whatever that position is, that career. If you are, it's going to be very challenging for you. You're going to hit a ceiling. We need to be able to reconnect. Anything that we want or need in life involves people. So to learn how to have empathy for someone, to learn how to express yourself in a diplomatic way, to learn and to know how to complete a full thought in a way that is engaging enough that someone gives you active listening is critical in anything, whether you're interviewing for a job, whether you want to be a student body president, whatever it is that you want to be, you need to have these skills, and they're lacking. And it's so amplified today. It's so evident today. It's important.
Yeah. You have a unique methodology of imitate, assimilate, and innovate. What does that mean, and how do students move through those stages in practice?
So what I do, this was birthed from seeing, years ago, you could get away with do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
You can't get away with that anymore. So what I wanted to have happen, I said it's critical to me, vital, that the presenters and the mentors, that when they get up there to present, that they model whatever it is, if it's approachable, if it's feasible to do so, that they model whatever that is. And once they model, then they give the opportunity for the students to imitate that themselves. Then after they imitate it, they become more comfortable. So then now they have assimilation. Then once they've gotten it down, they've gotten some form of mastery, then they can innovate or quote unquote go off script. So what that looks like is, for example, let's say if I am teaching someone how to introduce themselves and I get up there and I say, hi, my name is Jacqui Dobens. I'm the head cheerleader of Much More Than Mentorship. And what we do is we help prepare the students for the Amazing Shake competition. We're currently doing that at San Gorgonio Middle School and Tomas Rivera over in Paris. And we're launching over in Columbia Middle School over in Victorville, Adelanto. That's a really short, brief. Then I give them, I say now, and then I would say, and a fun fact about me is I love to kayak and I don't know how to swim. They just, wow. So then I give them the opportunity. I said, so introduce yourself. And they would say, for example, hi, my name is Tanya. I'm in the 7th grade. I attend San Gorgonio Middle School, and I love hiking and backpacking. Okay. I love math. Whatever it is. And it gives them an opportunity for them to imitate that.
Sure.
Then we go a little bit deeper, and I give them an opportunity for them to say it several times in different ways and add to it. Fun fact about me, add that component. And then by the end, they get up and they can very free-flowingly introduce themselves. But they saw me do it first.
Right. If you just joined us, you're listening to Education Insight. In your opinion, how can programs like this reshape how we think about education or about mentorship and the way that we are preparing our students for the future? What do you think?
I believe so. I believe that instead of thinking of these modalities as disparate, that we really link them more together, that there is not a one size fits all, that if you're the toe in this example, for example, say you're teaching the education, reading, math, okay, you're the toe. Okay, so what if the Amazing Shake is the thumb? Well, you don't know how important the thumb is until you don't have the thumb. It's like any other member of the body. You don't realize how important it is until you don't have it, and until you need it and realize you don't have it or are not equipped. I think that sometimes we're so busy isolating and segmenting and categorizing ourselves that we don't realize that we all synergistically can work together. I applaud Sanji, specifically the leadership there, the admins there, for recognizing that there was a deficiency in their students and going out and getting it, that they support, that they invest in this, because the amount of results that we're getting are not just for the competition and for today. This is long lasting.
And that is Jacqui Dobens. She's the founder of Much More Than Mentorship and prep team director for the Amazing Shake. It's an intense soft skills competition taking place at a number of inland Southern California middle schools. Jacqui, thank you so much for joining us here today on Education Insight.
Thanks so much for having me, Lacey. I appreciate it.
Imagine being just 10 years old and graduating from college. That's when most kids are in the 4th grade learning reading comprehension in the states of the U.S. And they're the ones famous for giving moms that side hug. But a San Bernardino girl is preparing to graduate from Crafton Hills College with 2 degrees in just a few weeks. Alyssa Perales and her dad join us for the next Education Insight. I hope you will too. I'm Lacey Kendall.
Education Insight is produced in partnership with KVCR San Bernardino.
Our executive producer is Jacob Poor.
And our production engineer is Tyler Veazey. Alyssa Silva is our production assistant.
And Lacey Kendall is your host. Support is provided by College Futures Foundation.
Some technical assistance provided by the College of Arts and Letters at Cal State San Bernardino.
Growing Inland Achievement. Working together for inland education and economic success.
Join us again next week for Education Insight.